Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing. I love highlighting members in my group, Find Your Voice and Speak Up. And today I am welcoming a good friend of mine, a coach of mine along the many years I've been doing online business. And this is Joey Chandler. Hi, Joey.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm really excited to spend time with you because I know that every time we talk, there's something I learn. There's a way in which you are so perceptive and you're also so accepting. You just make things easy. So that's from experience, folks.
Yes,
And
that's
I,
good. It's got to be
I,
easy.
I
It's
know
got to
this
be easy.
man.
Mhm. Yeah, I think things have to be easy especially these days when things are so complicated and so much chaos. Easy is good.
Yeah, well, this was supposed to be live, folks. So if you're watching the replay, sorry that we had technical difficulties, but nevertheless, the show is going on today. So
Yes.
you have a bio you sent me, so I want to get to that first so people can grab on instantly some of the value that they will get if they continue listening, not if, as they continue listening. Joey Chandler is a life and business coach who empowers small business owners to increase their cash flow uncertainty without having to be someone that they aren't. I have to take a big breath there because that's all of my work about authenticity and why people are in this group. He specializes in clarifying values and then leveraging them to achieve goals and overcome challenges. And he lives in Reno, Nevada, is a father, skier, and photographer. Wonderful, Joey. And today we're talking about well, why successes and how success can happen. And you talk about it as modern business 2025. This is modern.
Yeah, you've been working with authenticity and helping people find their voice for a long time, and I think it's more. I think as we move forward, especially with AI, knowing who you are, knowing what you're about, and more than equally important, being able to produce results by being more yourself, I think is going to be more and more crucial because there's so many things just pulling at us these days.
Well, what you just said right then, that to me is a nugget. You know, essence, you said being a success in your business, which is being profitable, having
Yep.
clients. And so that to me is already a hook by being yourself. And what does that mean? So, what does that mean to be yourself?
Well, for me, I think it comes down to knowing your values, knowing your goals, and then also acknowledging your fears. Being able to say, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, and these are the things that are kind of getting in my way. To be able to acknowledge that is being able to say, yeah, this is who I am.
Uh-huh. Values. Let's start with values.
Yeah, so core values, lots of people have talked about them. They've been mentioned, in business for a good 20, 25 years. But most people have kind of what I call an adultified version of values, where they're very intellectual and they sound really good on paper, but we don't use them enough. And when you don't use your values, you don't get value out of your values.
Oh,
And that's why so many people have gone to workshops and seminars and leadership training. They do this great core value work and then they forget about it by lunchtime or certainly by the time they get to the car or when they get back to the office on Monday.
I love like what you just did. People don't value their values. That little phrase uh,
Yeah,
is
and it's
what I
not so
love
much
about working with you. Oh,
and
yeah.
it's not so much they don't value them because I think if you ask them like they do value them, but if you
Yes.
ask do they get value out of their values is a different story
Well, they
because
have to remember their values.
they have to
Somehow have a process where they uh, are claiming it every single day. And I think that's partly what your app does that we can talk about a little bit later here. But
yeah. Yeah, and your values represent who you are at your very best. Like when you are operating at your best, my thesis and my argument is that you are present to your values. And why wouldn't you want to be operate at your best? So let's make it easy to bring our values forward into our lives, as each and every day.
So bringing it forward, you had three things: values, and then what was the second?
So there's inside values, goals, and then fears.
Okay, yes, values, goals. Okay, so bringing that into your life and what your goals are, I think is what. So give some examples. I mean, I could use my own, but some of what you've worked with.
Yeah, so just something from my own life. About, I don't know, it was maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago, or I was thinking about my fitness, and I had a clear goal for my business. And I was like, I want to, but I didn't have a clear goal for my fitness. I was working out, but I just was kind of doing things, and I I said, okay, and then I always look at my values when something is kind of not as strong as it could be. I look at my values, and my values are connection, curiosity, and commitment. And I said, oh, I'm not committed to anything in my workout. So I went online and realized that there was actually a half marathon um, on in beginning of October here in Reno. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that, and started training for that.
Hmm.
And and that happened not because of like guilt or shame or I need to be better or anything. It was simply saying, here's my values. I want to be in shape. How can I bring a little more and how can I bring more of my values to my working out? So I brought a little more commitment, it started, and then I started training for the marathon. And now I'm I'm going to run. I'm going to be slow, but I'm going to do it. And that's going to be an accomplishment.
Well, that's the courage, the other
Yeah.
one that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And connection, there's probably all sorts of ways in which connection shows up. That's one of the ones you also mentioned. Wow. The idea here that I'm getting from you actually is not only remembering them, but also living into them, bringing them into what seems to not be working. So fears, it seems like between your goals and your fears could be where you start to get a little wonky around what might,
Yeah.
your connection or courage or commitment.
Yeah, what I started to see is that as soon as you set a goal, I want
Uh-huh.
to, run a half marathon. I want to make X number of dollars. I want to have a certain type of relationship. As soon as you set any goal, especially any meaningful goal, you're going to have a fear come up. Some doubt, some worry, some I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. I'll never finish that race or whatever it is. And what I notice is that too often we try to solve that fear. We try to, either pump ourselves up or get around it or make it go away, or we just try to do a bunch of things with it. And it never really works. But what does work is to say, okay, here's my fear, to acknowledge them because they're real. They're real and they're part of who we are. And then we can say, okay, but instead, what do my values say to do? So, like in that case of me training, I said, commitment is one of my values. What does that say to do? That said for me to go find a race and start training for it.
Okay, I get it. I think what you're saying, I get it. I get the idea about a goal, and then whatever the resistance that comes up, we have to, not have to, but it seems like in this process that you're teaching, is that we expect it, and there's nothing wrong with a fear, and it's not necessarily do it anyway, feel the fear and do it anyway, which a lot of messaging is about. This is about look at it, just look at it first, and then switch over to what your values are, because that's where your energy is to actually be able to move through fear, or to be able to dissolve fear or put it in its place, whatever happens to fear once it's at least seen and challenged, embraced, however we approach fear.
Yeah. And the really awesome part about this is that when you take an action that aligns with your values and is in service of a goal, despite a fear, so you acknowledge that fear, but you took actions that align with your values, that's the definition of courage. And when you take anyone who takes a courageous act is going to get an energy boost. You jump off a cliff into the water, you ask someone out on a date, you make that sales call, you do whatever, it to be a courageous act, you always have a boost in energy. And so by incorporating this every day, one of the nice things about it is that not only do you prevent burnout, but it also allows you to recover from it because you're always constantly getting a little bit of an energy boost. And you're not going to, you don't need a parade because you made a phone call. Like that's not, you're not going to have everything done at once, but you repeat the process over and over again. You keep tapping in your values. You keep saying, hey, how can I apply my values to this particular goal? And then taking any size action, just a baby step, just the smallest step, you you get an energy boost. And it's one of the funniest things. Like I have so many friends who are really successful, and there's a lot of people who are, but they're struggling right now. Like I'm talking to them and they're struggling, and I just realized I'm like I just have more energy than them right now. Like and it's not because I'm better off than them in any way, shape, or form, but I have this process where every single day I'm taking actions that align with the values despite fears, and that is energizing. It builds
Uh-huh.
confidence. It helps you increase your cash flow. It does, does all sorts of things.
Well, I'm going to repeat what you say the best I can because I think that phrase, taking action despite the fears, wait, taking action aligned with your goals despite the fears. That's seems like the phrase that you're saying, right?
Yeah, align with your values in service of a goal
In service of a goal.
despite your fears.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to break it down because you're so comfortable saying it. It just blah blah rolls off your tongue.
Right.
And I want people to really get those three aspects and how that it gives more energy. And obviously you're a living example of energy.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really, and the wonderful part about it, the really great part about it is, again, especially now where there's so much stress, so much uncertainty, so much everything, you can wake up each and every day and essentially say, okay, what are my values? What are my goals? What do my values say to do today? And you can take an action no matter if you are doing extremely well or if you're feeling really stuck. In either way will help you move forward, will give you an energy boost, and allow you to achieve the goals in ways that really work for you.
I love the model. And I'm going to ask a question around basically a case that I have. Not that I'm working with him with values, which it sounds like I need to go back and figure this out with him, but he's working on feeling insecure when he has to speak up at a meeting.
Hmm.
And so we're working together and he shows up at the meeting or a coaching call with me and says, I had a letdown. It just didn't work. Some of the things that we're teaching him, I'm teaching, helping him find his voice inside. He goes, I lost it. I didn't, it was almost like I failed. So what do you do in your coaching with people that come to you like that?
Yeah. Well, first off, you acknowledge him and you celebrate him for making an effort. Like,
Ah,
no matter
nice.
what he's done, he's tried something, right?
Yes,
He tried,
yes.
and maybe the results weren't the way
Uh-huh.
that, to the level that he wanted, but they're certainly worthy of acknowledgement and celebration. That's
Oh,
that's the
thank you.
that's the
Thank you.
first
Thank you.
part.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe we need to celebrate you if you're feeling bad because you didn't as a coach you're like but then yeah, then you would from the values perspective you would just start to say, hey, in when you were having that conversation or you were leading that presentation, whatever he was doing, which of your values was missing in that area? Or if you were thinking about your values, what would they say for you to do next time?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. This is fabulous. What you just said too. I think it's a great demonstration of who you are, Joey, as a coach. When you
Thanks.
said celebrate,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Celebrate
even what you just did with me, you just
right.
said, "Hey, girl, you could celebrate too here."
Yeah, we all have. I mean, you took a step, like, and
Yeah.
and there's not a speaker on the planet who hasn't had days where they've stumbled.
Uh-huh.
And um, but here's the interesting part is by practicing every day, by saying, hey, how, what are my values? What are my goals? What actions can I take align with my values? By making that a habit every day, which takes minutes. Remember, this is not a long, exhaustive thing. By making that a habit, when you get into a tense situation, like standing up in front of a meeting or an event, and
Right.
you freeze, because it sounds like that's what happened, um, and you don't know where to go, you take a deep breath and you say, okay, which of my values can I use here? And because you've built up that habit or that routine during the quote safe times of your life, in the stressful times, it just becomes a whole heck of a lot easier.
Like a muscle,
It's
inner
like a
muscle.
muscle. It's 100% a muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best example I have of this is it was about a year ago actually. I I had started seeing a lady. I'd gone on a couple dates with this woman, and I was like, oh, it was very very early, but I was like, this is good. This is feeling really good. And I live in Reno. She lived about 30 miles away from me up in Truckee by Lake Tahoe, and so we had agreed to have a phone call while we were going on our morning walks. So I get on the call, and she's like, I went to my therapist yesterday. And anybody who knows dating knows that any conversation that starts off, I went to my therapist, never goes well. Like, and it didn't. She was like, thanks, but I don't think you're my guys. Thanks, but no thanks. And it was a bummer because I was kind of excited and I was like, I was energized. And I just was angry. I was frustrated. And my traditional way of dealing with that was kind of to like mope for like, a week or so. But the next morning, I woke up completely out of habit, like not even no sense of like I thought it would work. I said, okay, what can I celebrate about yesterday? I just did a little bit of this. And then I was like, okay, what's my goal? I want a relationship. What are my values? Okay, da 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 da. And then what do they say to do? And then by the time I got to, like kind of through them, I started to feel the weight lift. And
Uh-huh.
then it didn't happen immediately, but within a couple hours, and then certainly by a couple of days, I was like, I'm back.
Uh-huh.
And that happened. And again, it was just to me, it was such a good example of because I didn't think the thing would work at all. I didn't think talking about my values would work at all in that moment because I felt so bad about getting dumped. And but it did. And what I found is each and every time you can be in the worst mood possible, you know, give yourself some acknowledgement, give yourself a pat on the back. What are your goals? What are your values? And what are the, what actions can you take? And it will always help you move forward.
Oh, beautiful. So what you just described is the app that you've developed, your own app, and
Yep.
it's on Freely. Can you talk about that? Because I know the app, I've done it, I use it. So uh, tell the group about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's called Freely. It's at freely.net, and it's a web app. It's not a phone app yet. And I basically was trying to figure out how to better explain my work. And and the funny part is I was talking to some engineers. I thought my work could help engineers. And I really got a cold shoulder. They were like, no, this isn't going to work. And I was like, mother, I kind of got angry and got pissed off. And I sat down and I used the vibe coding app to start creating this app, and it turned out to be incredibly helpful. I use it every day. It's an app that it helps you clarify your values. It walks you through a process to clarify your values, and then you just go through this process in the morning. You celebrate. You say, hey, what can I celebrate about yesterday? What are my value or what are my goals? What are my fears? What do my values say to do? And then what actions can I take? And it captures it, then it puts it into a kind of a to-do list, the things that you said. And then the really cool part is that I added in a section called learning, and that's really to capture your thoughts. And what I found is that we learn things throughout the day, and that if you can capture them, they become it does two things. When you get your thoughts out of your head, it becomes this incredible data source that you can use later on, but it also clears your head. And when was this? I don't know. This was maybe a couple months back. Um, I was doing some work on the app. It was a Saturday morning, beautiful day. I was going to go for a walk, go for a hike, and I was working on the app, and I'm not technical enough. I understood vibe coding, which is basically using AI to create the app, and I used it. But I'm not like, if there's a problem, like if the problem becomes another problem, creates another problem, I don't know it well enough to really
Mhm.
um and on that particular Saturday, like I tried something and then I tried it again, and it just became this cascade of errors. And so all day was trying to fix this error that was like error, error, error. It was like all day. And I was so angry. I was so frustrated. And I finally got it done. Finally got it done, like at 4 or 5 o'clock. And I was like, oh, so I'm just going to go for a walk. I can't go for the hike. I'm just going to
Finally.
go finally, like, and all I did was get it back to where it was before I started fiddling with it. So I was embarrassed. I was angry. I was frustrated, just annoyed. And I got, and I go for this walk, and usually, and I, like I was, like, again, out of habit, I started to dictate out my day. And usually I dictate out my day. I say, hey, this is something I did yesterday. Here's a call I made. Tomorrow I'll say, I had this great conversation with Doreen. Like, it's usually a positive thing. And that day I just vented, and I was like, the world sucks. I suck. Everybody sucks. Like, I just vented for like 5 or 10 minutes. I must have looked crazy, like just talking to my phone, yelling at my phone. But I yelled, and I captured all that information. And like partway through, I was like, I started to feel so much better. And I was able to get all that anger out. And then the next week, I was able to use some of that, all that stuff that I had dictated out as part of a newsletter the following day.
Content.
It became content.
Uh-huh.
But the idea of getting all of our thoughts out of our head into something that you can actually use later on and save is remarkable. I call that your gold file. There's a way the app allows you to download the file, but
Yes.
it's the venting and getting it all out of our head and it just clears up and allows new thoughts to come in, and you don't get weighed down. So I find it i- incredibly energizing to
Mhm.
dictate out. Sometimes you're talking about how awesome the day was. It's something you learned and a win. In other days, it's like everybody sucks. But either way, getting all that out of your head creates the space for new thoughts to come in without weighing you down, without burdening you. And so the app is just incredibly helpful. It's free. People can give it a try. It, um, it's really really remarkable. The only trick is you have to use it. That's the
I'll put a link in the show notes here so
Yeah.
that people can download it and try it out. I would say that with the idea of erase a sketch, but you haven't erased it. What you have done is erased your brain, but it's still someplace that you can use either in your business, like make a what a content out of it, an email, a social post about being honest with yourself or something. So
Yeah. You can even use it if you dictate out your thoughts for a week or two, some amount of time. I found it you can pretty easily take the file, load the file into ChatGPT and say, please give me 10 book title ideas from my thoughts. And it will do it, and you'll come up with like 10, and then you can say, you choose the title that you want, and you say, okay, from all of these thoughts from this past week, or past couple of weeks, give me 10 chapter ideas, and it will give you 10 chapter ideas. And you can go down as far as you want. At some point you got to do the writing, but it will, if you're interested in writing a book, it is a very very simple way to
uh,
at least get the framework and get the foundation of your book.
uh,
I don't think it won't write the book for you, but it will absolutely help you get the foundation.
because it came out of you in the first place.
It came out of you in the first place. Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we're coming to the end, and I just want to make sure that people know how to get you. Is it joeychandler.com?
JoeyChandler.net.
.net.
Dot
Okay.
net. Yep. And then also freely.net. FREELIE.net.
Yeah, great. Well, I would like to just take a breath with you and have you listen into this now moment and see what wants to be said to the listeners. What do you want to leave us with?
Mm. Well, I think ultimately everybody's got a message. Everybody's got something to share. Everybody has something really powerful. And the more clear you can get on your values, more clear you can get on your goals, and you take actions that align with that, I think that two things happen. That message starts to bubble up and comes to the surface, and you build up the confidence to actually share it. Because it's one thing to come up with an idea of what you want to say, but it's a whole nother thing to actually say it over and over again. And I think knowing your values and having a way of using them is a really powerful tool to help you share the message, whatever your message is.
Living out loud. Thank you. Thank you,
There you
Joey.
go. Thank you.